Hours, not days, hours. That's all Congress has left before the United States government runs out of money. Tonight at midnight, September 30th, turning into October 1st, that's the deadline. And right now, the Senate floor is in session with desperate last minute negotiations. The House has already left town days ago, and a meeting yesterday at the White House broke down between Trump and congressional leaders, and it absolutely produced nothing. So Vice President JD Vance walked out of there yesterday morning and told reporters point blank, I think we're headed for a shutdown. And this just isn't theater anymore. 800,000 federal workers are about to find out whether they're getting furloughed or forced to work without pay. Tomorrow morning, the Bureau of Labor Statistics was supposed to send out their jobs report, and this is critical data the Federal Reserve uses to make interest rate decisions. And that report is canceled if we're all shut down. Small business owners waiting on SBA loans, out of luck, national parks across Arizona and the country, most services stopped. Air travelers, get ready for TSA lines from absolute hell as agents start calling in sick because they're not getting paid. But here's the question that's been hanging over the entire mess. Is Trump the accelerant here? Is he really at fault, or is he just the most convenient villain at this moment? Because depending on which source you believe, this shutdown is either Democrats holding healthcare hostage to embarrass Trump, or Republicans playing chicken with people's livelihoods because they won't negotiate. The truth, well, both narratives have evidence. Both sides are dug in about 12 hours, we're about to find out what happens when nobody blinks. Now, let's break down what actually is happening right now. So they're still in negotiations. We're still waiting to see what the shutdown is going to be. But this has been really much par for the course for many, many years now. And so, what is actually going to happen when midnight rolls up? And the technical term for this is a lapse in appropriations. Congress controls federal spending. Every year, they're supposed to pass 12 separate appropriation bills to fund different parts of the government for the fiscal year starting October 1st. They haven't done it again. And in fact, they haven't passed a full budget on time since 1997. And that was literally 28 years ago. When midnight hits and there's no funding authorization, the government loses legal authority to spend money on discretionary programs. But here's the crucial distinction: not everything shuts down. There are two types of spending. There's mandatory spending, which is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. That continues because it's authorized permanently. Those checks, they'll just keep flowing. Then there's discretionary spending, and that's federal workers' salaries, national parks, permit processing, safety inspection, administrative function. That's what needs annual approval. That's what stops at midnight. What closes starting tomorrow morning, that's national park shut down or go into skeleton crew. The Smithsonian Museum in DC closes within days. The FDA food safety inspections for high risk facilities pause. Small Business Administration loan processing freezes completely. And then the IRS service, not that they had good service in the first place, but that disappears entirely. The immigration courts, which are already backlogged over 800,000 people, it just gets worse. And this has been going on since pretty much 1997 was the last time that they ever had everything passed come October 1st. And as you can see from this graph here, there's some years between '07 and 17 where there was nothing passed. So again, since this has been 28 years before everything's passed come the deadline, come October 1st, which is very interesting. You know, TSA agents and air traffic controllers, they're classified as accepted employees. They must show up and work without pay, of course. And during the 2018-2019 shutdown, some TSA agents had a 10% call out rate at major airports. And guess what happens when they start calling in sick? The security lines are going to get longer and longer. And until they decide they can afford to work for free. A lot of people might not be able to go to work if they're not getting paychecks. Some people work paycheck to paycheck. They might need a paycheck to pay for the gas to get to work. So these lines, this is really going to affect people, especially ones that travel. And then you have your federal workers. Do they get back pay? They eventually do. And this has been guaranteed by law since 2019. But eventually, that doesn't pay October's rent. And during the 35-day shutdown in 2019, federal workers lined up at food banks. Contractors, they often get nothing. No back pay guarantee, just lost income. And here's what this means specifically for people in Arizona. Because if you're watching from Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff, this matters to you. Arizona has 22 national parks and monuments. During the 2013 shutdown, parks nationwide turned away 8 million visitors, costing local economies $414 million. Phoenix Sky Harbor already has some of the longest TSA wait lines in the Southwest. Tomorrow morning, imagine when agents aren't showing up. Arizona roughly has 44,000 federal employees. Military bases like Luke Air Force Base and Davis Monthan, their active duty keeps them getting paid initially from different funding, but civilian defense workers face immediate furloughs. The Defense Department sent a memo last week confirming that if funding lapses, military paychecks stop until congressional people act. And the VA appointments, it's complicated. Medicare mostly continues because it's mandatory spending, but administrative functions, benefits processing, some regional office, those slow down or actually close. So, like, if you're a federal worker or if you're a military person, this is really going to affect you because essentially you're not going to get a paycheck until they decide how to move forward. And who knows how long that can be. And some people aren't even guaranteed, like this, the contractors aren't even guaranteed back pay. So, this is going to affect a lot of people. And I was really thinking about like, why do they keep doing this? Why does the Congress, why does it take them so long to come to this kind of conclusion? And there's always seems to be this constant like cliff edge drama, and I guess the simpler answer is because it works for them. Congress is supposed to pass a real budget, 12 appropriation bills, debated, amended, voted on, signed by the president. That's how it's supposed to work. The last time they actually did it on time was 1997. The Clinton administration, Newt Gingrich was speaker 28 years ago. Since then, continuing resolutions, aka CRs, temporary spending bills, they say keep funding everything at last year's levels for X amount of more weeks until they figure it out. Just this year, fiscal 2025, that's ending tonight, Congressional passed 3 separate CRs before finally passing a full year CR in March that runs through September 30th, which is why we're here again. So, why do they keep using these CRs? Because passing a real budget requires compromise, negotiations, hard votes about priorities. CRs let everyone avoid those hard choices, kick the can down the road. And essentially, both parties are doing it. This isn't a partisan issue. This is systematic dysfunction within the government. But here's when it becomes weaponized. CRs create leverage. Deadlines create urgency. Urgency creates negotiating powers. So if you want to force a win on something unrelated to basic government funding, healthcare subsidies, border wall money, whatever your political priority is, you attach it to the must pass CRs and hold the government hostage until you can get what you want. Let's hit the greatest hits. So back in 1995-96, Clinton versus Gingrich, Republicans wanted massive spending cuts. Clinton refused. Government shut down for 21 days total across 2 separate lapses. Public blamed Republicans. Clinton's approval went up. In 2013, Obamacare fight. House Republicans tried to defund the Affordable Care Act. Democrats refused. 16-day shutdown. 800,000 federal workers furloughed. Standard & Poor's estimated it cost $24 billion in economic activity. Republicans took the polling hit. And then you have 2018, 2019, and it's the record breaker. Trump wanted $5.7 million for the border wall. Democrats said no. Trump literally said on camera in the Oval Office with Pelosi and Schumer sitting right there, I will be proud to shut down the government for border security. I'll take the mantle. I'll be the one to shut it down. 30 days, the longest shutdown in 35 days, longest in American history, 800,000 federal workers affected. Congressional Budget Office estimated it cost the economy $11 billion, with $3 billion in permanent losses that were never recovered. TSA agents and air traffic controllers worked without pay. Some stopped showing up, causing flight delays at major airports. National parks became disaster zones with overflowing trash and human waste. And Trump's approval rating, it barely moved. By 2020, voters had moved on. There's nothing that's that's more maddening about this part, that shutdowns literally cost money. They don't save money, they cost money. You pay people to prepare contingency plans. You lose revenue from park fees and permanent processings. Contractors build shutdown risk premiums into their bids. And then you pay federal workers anywhere through guaranteed back pay. So you pay them literally not to work. Every economist agrees shutdowns are economically stupid, but politically, they're useful. They cause drama, confrontation, headlines. Both sides get to claim they're fighting for principles, while their actual people who suffer are never, ever in the room. And it just seems like this has literally been going on year by year. It's essentially 28 years ago was the last time 1997, when they ever passed all the budget the first time. And so, what is exactly happening right now, today, as the clock ticks down? So, again, what is it this time? We are hours away from a shutdown. Republicans control everything. House has 221 to 214, and the Senate is 53 to 47. White House, they should be able to pass a continuing resolution easily, but in the Senate, you need 60 votes to advance most legislation. That means Republicans need at least 7 Democrats. Democrats led by Chuck Schumer in the Senate and Hakeem Jeffries in the House have drawn a hard line. No vote or a clean CR unless it includes Enhanced Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. These ACA subsidies expanding during COVID are set to expire December 31st, 2025. Without them, millions of Americans will see health care insurance premiums spike significantly. CBO estimates the Democratic healthcare package would cost 1.4 trillion over 10 years. Democrats say Republicans cut Medicaid by 840 billion this summer in the one big beautiful bill. Now they want a clean CR that looks like those cuts in. But absolutely not. Fix healthcare first or we shut down. Jeffrey said this morning on CNBC, we are fighting to deal with the healthcare of the American people. We said notices are going out Wednesday to tens of millions of Americans about higher premiums if subsidies expire. Republicans passed a clean 7-week CR through the House on September 19th, 217 to 212, almost entirely party line. That CR funds government through November 21st at current levels, but some additional security funding for lawmakers after recent threats. Speaker Mike Johnson said this morning they need to come to their senses here and do the right thing. He accused Democrats of trying to protect Schumer's political position and called their demands irrelevant to keeping government open. Senate Majority Leader John Thune accused Democrats of hostage taking and hijacking the appropriations process. Both proposals came to the Senate floor on September 20th. Both failed. Republicans blocked the Democratic version with healthcare provisions. Democrats blocked the Republicans' clean CR stalemate. The messaging war today is intense. The GOP frame, we passed a clean standard CR. Democrats are manufacturing a healthcare crisis and holding government hostage for a $1.5 trillion wish list. This is the Schumer shutdown, the Democratic frame. Republicans slash healthcare for millions this summer. Now they want us to rubber stamp those cuts. No, we're fighting for people's health coverage. This is Trump's shutdown because he refused to negotiate. So here's the timeline on how we got to this moment. So you have September 23rd, Trump canceled a scheduled meeting with Schumer and Jeffries, calling their demands ridiculous and unserious. Republicans Johnson and Thune reportedly urged him to cancel because they thought Schumer was setting a trap. So then we fast forward to September 29th, which is yesterday. After massive backlash, Trump agreed to meet with all 4 leaders, Johnson, Thune, Schumer, Jeffries, at the White House. The meeting happened yesterday afternoon. Result? Absolutely nothing. No progress. VP JD Vance told reporters, I think we're headed to a complete shutdown. Schumer said they are very, very large differences between the two sides. Johnson said Democrats refuse to acknowledge simple facts. And now it's Tuesday, September 30th. Midnight is literally 12 hours away. The Senate is in session right now. Schumer and Thune are exchanging sharp words on the floor, but there's no vote scheduled. There's absolutely no deal on the table right now. So here's what's not the spin. Schumer is under immense pressure from his base. Last March, he caved. 10 Senate Democrats voted with Republicans for a clean CR. Progressive activists went nuclear. Schumer got roasted by his own party for helping Republicans avoid accountability. This time, he's holding the line. He has to, or he'll face primary challenges from the left. The only power the minority party has in the Senate is the filibuster. The ability to say, you need our votes. And Trump, he's made it clear. He thinks Democrats will blink. He's willing to let this happen. His OMB already sent memos telling agencies to prepare for layoffs, not just furloughs, if shutdowns happen. This could be devastating. And that brings us to the question that everybody is trying to avoid. Who does this hurt the most when this all comes down to the deadline? So let's talk about who actually suffers when midnight arrives. Federal workers and contractors. As of March, roughly 1.4 million federal employees were deemed essential. So about 750,000 would keep getting paid from other funding sources. Another 900,000 would be furloughed without pay. But here's the unprecedented part. Trump's OMB sent agency a memo on September 25th instructing them to use a shutdown as an opportunity for reduction in force and IRF notices. So he wants permanent layoffs, not temporary furloughs. This has never been done before, ever. Every previous administration treated shutdowns as temporary funding gaps. Trump's team sees this as a chance to permanently shrink the federal workforce in areas not consistent with the president's priorities. This changes everything. The stakes, the furloughs are temporary, RIFs are permanent. Some federal workers might not just lose paychecks, they might lose their jobs entirely. Military and defense, the Defense Department sent a memo confirming active duty military and civilian defense employees will not be paid after September 30th until Congress acts. In Arizona, that affects thousands of workers at Luke Air Force Base and at Fort Huachuca. And that's, down here in Phoenix. And then you have the air traffic and air traffic controllers and then air travelers, which are going to be infected by that. Tomorrow, TSA agents and air traffic controllers must report to work without pay. During 2018-2019, TSA had 10% call-out rates at some major airports. Phoenix Sky Harbor is one of the busiest airports in America. Fall travel season, and it is actually on right now. It's all fall break here in Arizona, which I don't know where this fall break thing came from because I never had fall break growing up. It was like you had spring break and that was it. These kids, I guess, need a fall break from all the hard work they're doing, I guess. So it's going to be a nightmare because these kids are on fall break for the next 2 weeks. So, it's going to be the airports are definitely going to be affected, and they've already having problems with the air traffic controllers. So, it's going to be, here's the economic data that's going to really kind of boost this. And it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And they were supposed to release their September jobs report on October 3rd. And this will have critical data for the Federal Reserve's interest rates. In a shutdown, BLS suspends all operations that report delayed indefinitely. Small businesses, the SBA stops processing new loans immediately. During 2019, Moody's Analytics estimated over $2 billion in small business loans were delayed. If you're in Phoenix, small business owners waiting on an SBA disaster loan after summer storm damage, your application sits in limbo starting tomorrow. National parks and tourism. Arizona's 22 national parks and monuments generate massive tourism revenue during the 2013 shutdown. Parks nationwide turn away 8 million visitors, costing surrounding communities $414 million. Local hotels, restaurants, tour operators, they all take the economic hit. Food assistance, the SNAP benefits, food stamps can continue for about 30 days into a shutdown based on previous contingency plans. But with WIC, benefits for mothers and young children, those would run out within days to weeks. The Atlanta Community Food Bank reported today they're already seeing increased demand. They serve 70% more people than 3 years ago. A prolonged shutdown could overwhelm food bags across the country. And then you have the veterans. VA medical care continues mostly. It's mandatory spending, but administrative functions benefit processing. Some regional VA services, those slow down or literally stop. And so, what's the economic impact? Goldman Sachs estimates each week of shutdown reduces GDP growth by about 0.2% points. That gets recovered later when spending resumes, except for permanent losses. CBO estimates 3 billion in permanent economic damages from 2018 to 2019. That was never recovered. And here's the sick irony in all of this. Shutdowns rarely have lasting political consequences. Polling shows whoever the public blames takes a temporary hit. By the next election, voters have moved on. In 2013, Republicans took a polling hit. In 2018, 2019, Trump's approval barely changed. By 2020, the shutdown wasn't even a campaign issue. The people who cause shutdown don't really pay a price. These people who suffer during shutdowns pay everything. And members of Congress, they're exempt from the furloughs. They keep getting paid no matter what. Of course, maybe they should be not get paid and maybe they would have more incentive to keep this ball rolling. You know, so then we move on to the whole big Trump question. Is Trump making the shutdown more or less likely? So I wanted to take the steelman's side and see like what are both sides of this issue. Well, first case is case A. Is Trump canceled? Is this Trump? And he did cancel the September 23rd meeting with the Democratic leaders with just a week to go, calling the Democrats ridiculous. He didn't have to do that. He could have kept talking. Canceling signaled he's not interested in compromise. Yesterday's White House meeting produced like zero progress. Trump's position is clear. Democrats need to cave on a clean CR, no negotiation on healthcare. Trump's OMB memo directing agencies to prepare for permanent layoffs raises stakes dramatically. Previous administrations never did this. It suggests Trump sees shutdown as a tool to reshape governments consistent with his drain the swamp campaign promises. During 2018, 2019, Trump said on camera he'd be proud to be the one to do the shutdown. He's proven he's willing to endure political pain if he thinks it advances his goal. His base rewards that behavior. And then there's the case B. Trump is the convenient foil. Democrats need Trump as a villain. They're the minority in both chambers and don't control the White House. Their only leverage is the Senate filibuster. Schumer caved in March and got destroyed by his base. Now he's under immense pressure to fight. Pinning shutdown on Trump is politically essential. If Democrats mobilizing an enemy, Democrats are demanding 1.4 trillion in healthcare spending over 10 years as the price for keeping government open for 7 weeks. Republicans argue that's not a must-have for a CR. It's legislation hostage taking, attaching policy demands to must-have funding. The Republican CR that passed the House was technically clean. It funded operations through November 21st at current levels. Democrats voted against it at 212 to 1. Only Jared Goldman of Maine broke ranks. So who's causing the shutdown? The party refusing to negotiate beyond a clean CR, or the party blocking a clean CR to force policy wins? Both frames are technically correct depending on your assumptions. If you think government should run on clean CRs with policy debates, keep them separate, then Democrats blocking the House bill are causing the shutdown. If you think budgets are inherently about prioritizing and Republicans cutting Medicaid, then refusing healthcare negotiations is the crisis. Then Republicans are causing the shutdown. Both sides are using the same playbook that's been used for decades. But here's where it comes brutally clear. Trump could end this right now if he wanted to. He could tell Johnson and Thune, Give Schumer a 1-year ACA subsidiary extension. We'll fight the bigger healthcare battle next year. Keep the government open. But would that work? Probably. Would his base be upset? Some would, but it would likely pass. Trump isn't doing that. He's holding the line because he either thinks Democrats will blink or he doesn't mind the fight, or he actually wants the shutdown to justify workforce cuts. The question isn't whether Trump is cosmically responsible. The question is whether his approach increases or decreases shutdown profitability. And the answer is clear: it increases it. Does that make him the problem or one variable in a broken system that incentivizes this? Well, he has really no repercussions because it might affect him a little bit in the polls, but eventually it's proven that it's not really gonna affect him much in the polls. But, he has 12 hours, and we'll see how the next 12 hours go. And so what are kind of I was thinking about what are the predictions of this? And I would say base case, I'd say 60% probability they'll shut down, and he'll have for about 2 to 5 day lapse before, like, a mini deal. And here's how I think this plays. Midnight hits, no deal, government technically shuts down, federal workers wake up Wednesday uncertain about paychecks. TSA lines start going, and by Thursday morning, the jobs report delay becomes a headline. Markets get nervous. By Friday or early next week, someone blinks. Most likely scenario, a very short term CR, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, passes with a face saving mini compromise. Republicans give Democrats a 3 to 6 month ACA subsidy extension, but not permanent. Democrats drop some other demands. Everyone claims partial victory. Why? Because day 3 or 4, the pain becomes real. Airport chaos, federal workers panicking, and economic data disruption. Neither side wants to own that for weeks. An updated factor: the complete lack of progress from yesterday's White House meeting, it significantly increases shutdown probability. If there was any path to pre-midnight deal, we'd see movement right now, and we're not. And then I would say there's a 30% probability that the shutdown lasts 7 to 14 days. In this scenario, both sides dig in. Trump decides to let it run because his base doesn't punish him for it, and he wants to justify the RIF memo. Schumer decides he can't cave again after March without facing primary challenges. We get a week or two of real pain, TSA chaos, food bank lines, media coverage of federal workers struggling. Eventually, public pressure forces a deal, similar to base case, but with more acrimony. So why is this scenario? Well, it's because Trump has shown he's willing to endure long shutdowns. He had a 35-day shutdown in 2018, 2019, and progressive Democrats are demanding Schumer hold the line no matter what. And then I have the bull case scenario, and there's about 10% probability about that, and that means that there would be a last minute consensus tonight at midnight. Someone in the Senate, maybe a handful of moderate Republicans, breaks rank and signals they'll vote with Democrats on a compromise package. That creates momentum for a deal. Schumer and McConnell style institutionalists broker something as literally as late as 11 p.m. tonight. Short term CR with some health code provisions passes minutes before midnight. Why? Because some senators still remember when avoiding shutdowns was considered basic governance. But honestly, this feels unlikely given where we are at today, and it's heading towards 5 o'clock right now. So we've had absolutely no movement. So we'll see what happens. If there's anything, we'll see some kind of indication about 6 o'clock tonight. There'll be some movements on the Senate floor. It could signal some last minute deals, or Trump goes on his Truth Social or on X and he softens the rhetoric a little bit, saying a deal is possible. Democrats' senator statements: if any Senate Dems signal willingness to vote for clean CR, Schumer's position collapses. Stock market futures tonight's tomorrow. If markets tank Wednesday morning on a shutdown, that creates a lot of pressure. TSA calls out rates Wednesday morning. If significant, that forces quick resolution. So here we are. So we'll see what happens. Personally, I don't see any deal in sight. Yesterday's White House meeting produced absolutely nothing, and both sides dug in. And when the clock strikes 12 tonight, federal workers will be furloughed or forced to work without pay. Small businesses will have loans frozen. National parks will close. Air travelers will force chaos. Economic data will be delayed. The economy will take a multi-billion-dollar hit. Meanwhile, every member of Congress will keep getting paid. They're exempt from any furloughs, always. So let me be absolutely clear. I don't think Trump is uniquely responsible for this disaster, and I don't think Democrats are blameless heroes. This is systematic dysfunction. Congress has been playing shutdown chicken for 28 years now because the incentive reward it there's no incentive to not do this. But I do think Trump's willingness to embrace chaos makes shutdown more likely. And I do think Democrats using budget hostage taking for policy is the same tactic Republicans used in 2013 that everyone rightly condemned. Both things are true. But here's my question. Will there be a shutdown? And whose fault is it? Is it is it the Democrats? Is it the Republicans refusing to negotiate health care? Is it Trump's fault for canceling the meetings? Schumer drawing red lines? The broken system that created these incentives? Um, who knows? It's. I heard the biggest thing with the healthcare is the healthcare for um, illegals, which is unbelievable because that should be a red line on anyone's case. There should be no healthcare for illegal immigrants, and they need to take that 100% off the table. I think there's no negotiating with that. That's just they should if the illegal immigrant is the key illegal. And there's so many people that can't afford healthcare right now, and to give away healthcare for free for those that are illegal is just not acceptable. So we'll see what happens. Um, I can see where there's a definitely a line in the sand. I think the Democrats really have to bend on that one. But I think that, like I said, Schumer, he cannot bend or he's going to risk his future within the Democratic Party. And I really don't think Trump gives a fuck. He doesn't care. I think Trump loves the chaos. I don't think he likes the economic repercussions of this, but he doesn't. Chaos does not scare him. I think he actually likes chaos because it keeps everybody on their toes. So let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow morning? It will be very unfortunate if all these workers are having to go to work without pay. Who knows when they're going to get paid? Who knows that this is going to last? A lot of those people are paycheck to paycheck. This is really going to affect a lot of people. So again, let me know your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, share, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.